Today we are here with 3 individuals living with dementia. They have volunteered to share their stories and experiences of living with this condition. They are here to offer some advice on how to live well with dementia. One thing to notice in this video is the varying stages of dementia exhibited by our participants. People with dementia progress through varying stages, including mild cognitive impairment, early stage, middle stage, and late stage dementia. One key understanding is that the symptoms vary significantly from person to person. Each individual living with dementia experiences the journey differently. Shown here is a general example of each stage and their corresponding symptoms to guide your thinking. How did you feel when you were first diagnosed?
When I was first diagnosed, I don't think it was overwhelming to me because I knew it was coming, and I did have a brother-in-law who had Alzheimer's, and he was a brilliant man prior, and so I had an opportunity, to talk with him, and I felt so much more comfortable after doing that. So the diagnosis really wasn't as surprising either, because I was having trouble with my memory. At first, I kind of refused to believe that I really did have a problem. But as time went on, and with the support of my husband and this Mike, who was the brilliant man who had the diagnosis also, so that was very helpful.
A number of years ago, maybe 15, I was noticing some changes in my ability to retain information and so forth. And I'd spent my life teaching, so I had a lot of practice memorizing and so forth. So I went to be tested, and I found that I had lost some of my mental acuity, but still with very high functioning. So I wasn't actually diagnosed at that time, but I was aware that I was beginning to, as we say, lose it. So it was a gradual kind of process. It wasn't so much a shock as just a reaffirmation. There's something going on here. And so I was relieved in some ways that it was something that was going to be rather, more or less gradual, and it has been. So, but it was not a surprise at all, because it's been a number of years I'd been dealing with this decline.
You find out how much your kids love you. That's a good thing.
Yeah, well, I think it's very important to have a mate who is understanding. My husband's background was in psychology, and so he knew a lot about the disease, and that was really helpful. What also helped me greatly was I had a brother-in-law who was a brilliant man, and he had Alzheimer's, and that I watched him handle it. And for a man who was brilliant as he was, and where his confidence came from, this ability to understand, to learn, to whatever, and here this was all taken from him, yet when I was diagnosed and I came in, I can recall, he sat down with me and he just said, "Judy, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be." And actually, it has been. I guess I do get some flack from people because I'm not more depressed about it, I guess. But I don't know, you have a lot of changes in your life as you go along, and this is a big change, but there are things still that I'm able to do that are good, and sometimes it's good to have to move a little bit on a different angle and, learn something new that's different, and there are a lot of things out there that I can still do.
Tell us some of your experiences with reaching out and getting help from resources around Eau Claire County.
That's why we go to these sessions that we have. We go, we have people like these folks that are with us, and it's good. It's just a good community, talking to each other and talking about family and where'd you go and what'd you buy and what'd you have to eat.
There have been other things that have taken place, and that's what happens. You have to make adjustment, and met a lot of neat people, in the support groups, and so that has been fun. I've enjoyed that.
The biggest concerns I have with my kids, hoping they're safe. Hoping you're safe.
And I think that's a great program, where those who are involved with taking care of us have a chance to express what they're going through. And I don't know who has the worst job, a person with the Alzheimer's or the person that's got to take care of us. But I think that's real helpful that both sides have an opportunity to talk with other people and get some new ideas on how to deal with certain aspects of the disease. I think having that is to me such a great privilege to be able to meet and also to talk to people. I was sitting here listening to them, and though they're males, I'm getting a different, perspective. I think that's really good, and we get an opportunity to speak out about what we wish would happen, but especially I think for those who are caregivers, is they need a chance to, say this isn't working, and I don't know how to change it. I don't want to hurt her feelings. I want to, this kind of thing, and I feel that's such a benefit to be able to appreciate where somebody else is at.
The fact that I can still communicate, the fact that I can still talk to my family, that I can still, I've had lunch since 1971 with some colleagues from the university, and we've had lunch now since retirement for almost as long as we taught together. Mm. So we're going on to 50 years of having lunches together, and I would be hard pressed to have to give that up.
What advice do you have for others living with dementia on how to live well?
I'm finding little phrases and so forth that help me feel I still have some control of language, but not nearly what I had before. But it doesn't, it's still reassuring to know I can do that and enjoy it while I'm doing it. Halloween is a hollow holiday. And that's a nice line, but I'm not going to try to build a poem around it. I'm going to just leave it there. And so I've got these notes all over. You can find pieces of things you can do that you used to do that are equally satisfying. Yet what is there to do for you except help you find a way to deal with the inevitable? My advice to people would be, what did you really like to do when you were fully functional? And if they said, well, I like to paint, well, they'll go ahead and paint. You may find that your painting is just as good as it ever was. But if you were doing complex mathematical equations, you may not be able to do that, no matter how brilliant you were. You may have lost that. And so then you got to find something that's parallel to it, but it's still satisfying to you. You do things by steps rather than by the whole. If you try to envision something as a totality, it's too much. You got to break it into pieces and make sure you don't misplace one of the pieces.
Try to do what you did before you got Alzheimer's.
Be around people who are positive about their life. Live and be around people who are up, who feel life is worth living, that they're enjoying their life. I want to be around people who are up, who are making the best of what they have.
I think part of what you need to do is accept what has happened to you and deal with it, but don't deal with it in a way that you surrender and just give up. On the other hand, you have to be honest with other people too, people who are trying to help you or trying to assist you in ways. You've got to really show appreciation, and I've learned that there are a lot of decent people in the world. I ended up in the mall several years ago, totally lost, wandering around, not knowing where I was at, and there must have been 15 people came out. They were lined up, waited in case there's something I can do. I couldn't find my car. They sat me down, and somebody out went and got a wheelchair somewhere and put me in it. So if you're open about it and you're honest about it, then you have that potential help. On the other hand, you don't go around and just give up because that isn't going to work. But there's a tendency, I think, when you become aware of your limitations, you begin limiting yourself. And you say, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. And I do that a lot. And I'm sure it frustrates people. Why don't we go out and do this? Why don't we go out and do that? No, I'd rather stay here. The anxiety is an issue you've got to deal with. But you can, because you've done it all your life. I mean, you've been anxious about whether you're going to get your new job, whether you're going to do this or that or the other thing. So you use the same devices you used to deal with that anxiety in the past. So there are ways, and especially if you have any kind of support group around you, you ought to use it. But that doesn't mean that you give up. It means you find what you can do and you enjoy doing it.
So I'd like to be that kind of a person where I inspire other people.
I think there are times when you want people to understand what you're going through. And the age group I'm in now, so often you will discover that if you talk enough, you'll find people who are dealing with some memory loss, whether it's diagnosable or not is another question. But so there aren't many people my age anyway who haven't had some problems and who can identify with it. And if that's the direction the conversation is going in, you might share with them, but you don't have to. But you don't have to not either. You don't have to pretend that you're not dealing with a problem, especially if you're talking to somebody you could share it with, and maybe they could give you some advice or some kind of guidance. And I used to mutter to myself, "Motivate, Harry, motivate." You got to keep going, And I think that's what you got to do when you feel you're oppressed by the feeling that you're losing it. Just back off a little bit and keep going.
I also have this plan that I'm putting together where I'm going to sit down with each of my grandchildren and tell them what I think is so special about them and talk to them about what they want out of their life. This kind of thing I'm going to do with my grandchildren. And then what I don't want to forget to do and I want to be able to do before it's too late is sit down with my children and talk about the times in our lives together that were really important to me. I mean, they'll still have their memory, but I think what they're going to want to remember too is what this meant to their mother. And before I get to a point where I'm not able to remember those things or put them together in the right perspective, I want to do that.
What advice do you have for people who are unwilling to go to the doctor if they are struggling with memory and day-to-day activities?
One thing you got to do with your doctor is just ask, tell me what I'm looking forward to. Not looking forward to it, but I'm looking, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months down.
You get this sense that people don't want to make jokes about it, but doctors do. They think it's fine. Have some fun with it if you can, at least up to the point you still are able to do that.
Definitely.
Oh, absolutely. And talk honestly and openly about it, and question. Don't just accept what's being said.
That's a good point.
And then when you get home, you think, what did that mean, and so forth, and ask questions.
What are your favorite daily activities?
In my case, theater was my big thing, and you have to make some adjustments, but they can be made. We go to Florida in the winter, and they put on plays and things. Well, I knew I wouldn't be able to memorize long lists, but what they did have was an improvisation, and they were working on that, and they didn't know I had Alzheimer's, and I didn't tell them, not because I'm ashamed of it, because I didn't want them to turn me down right away. I wanted them to, see whether I could do what they wanted me to do, and the improv was perfect. I mean, it was very easy for me to do. So I think that's what we all have to learn to do, is just to make adjustments. And sometimes those adjustments turn out to be, things that we would never have done, and we would have, missed out on a lot. So I don't know, for me it hasn't been a horrendous experience.
One thing I found is, even though I can't read the way I used to, because I read a great deal until a couple of years ago, and it's still frustrating not to be able to pick up a novel and read the first chapter, and then I go to chapter 2 and I have no idea what the hell chapter 1 was about. You know?
Yeah.
So I've learned to enjoy reading while I'm reading, and find pieces of things I can read that I enjoy while I'm doing it. But whether I remember very much of it is another question. One of the things I really enjoy is reading the paper in the morning. I always look forward to that. That gives you a sense of the framework in which you live. And I don't know what I would do. I'm sure I would find something to fill that gap of feeling I was getting back into the real world a little bit.
I got 4 guys, we've been going to breakfast at Family Cafe for 20 plus years. Our daughter, she's an angel. She always seems to pop up at the right time.
What difficulties have you encountered in Eau Claire County related to your diagnosis?
Was given to me. You don't have to tell anybody. Well, to hell with it. I mean, if you're walking around with a broken leg and somebody says, "What's wrong? You break your leg?" No, my leg is fine. You know, it's I like a lot of stuff on it. You know, and I like to walk on crutches. That's why I do it this way. You tell people about it. And I've had situations where I've gotten lost. I got lost in Chippewa Falls, which I've been to 387 million times. And I couldn't find my way back, and I walked, and I got so exhausted I couldn't continue. And so I went into a gas station. There was a young man taking cash there, and I told him that I can't walk, I can't move, I can't find my car. And I thought, this is ridiculous. This guy's going to damn. He's 19, 20 years old. He won't give it. Why don't you wait right here? My girlfriend is waiting for me in the car. She can take you, just drive you around town until you find the car. And I thought, my God. And people tell me, don't tell anybody. Tell them, you know. And if you see somebody, don't recognize them, say, "I'm sorry. Can you help me? I'm having some problems with my memory." And of course, if they say their name and then you still don't recognize them, you guys say, "You have to tell me more." And if it embarrasses them or makes them uncomfortable, that's okay, because then they're going to have to learn, if they get older, that there is a way to share some of your problems and issues with people without being condemned for them, without being isolated, because I don't want to talk to him because he doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, I never really did, so it doesn't matter that much. And so honesty with people is necessary sometimes. And the first time I said, "I'm sorry, I can't recognize you, can you help me?" I was a little bit unsure of it. I use it all the time now. This is what you're dealing with. You've got limited abilities to deal with these kinds of crises. So you've got to find a way to help yourself, and then reach out for help too.
I think it's interesting, though, that is your problem, and mine is the opposite. I feel that people are not allowing me to do what I'm able to do because I've got Alzheimer's. What I'm dealing with is, don't tell me I can't do anything till I prove I can't do it. So I think you have, a problem that I haven't come up against yet, and I am experiencing this, where give me a chance. I can do this. I know I can do this, and if I can't, fine. But I want the chance. Don't take it away from me before I prove that I can't do it.
How can we help change the perception of dementia in our community?
I can remember just a line that has been used by people who have a particular disease like we do in Alzheimer's, and that is to assume I can do what you asked me to do unless I tell you otherwise or prove it otherwise. I would like that changed. I'd like people to be aware that we're able to do things sometimes that you wouldn't think we'd be able to do. This is what we need to do, is to be very proactive in what we are able to do, and make sure that we do not just allow people to assume we can't do something, to be given the chance and to determine what we are able or not able to do.
I remember reading one time that Hubert Humphrey, one of the great political minds of the century, I think, when Humphrey died, he said he taught us how to live, he taught us how to lead, and now finally he taught us how to die. And I thought that kind of, if you can leave that behind you, that people really believe that you were representing something, that you lived in a way that indicated you understood the meaning, that life had a meaning, and that it was something of value, and you wanted to make it mean something.